Have you ever had a strange feeling at work, like something is changing, but no one is telling you directly? No warnings, no clear problems. But still, something feels different. Maybe your tasks are lighter. Maybe fewer people ask for your help. Maybe meetings happen without you. At first, it's easy to ignore. You tell yourself, I'm just overthinking. Everything looks normal on the surface. Your job title hasn't changed. Your salary is still the same. No one has said anything negative, but deep down, there is a quiet discomfort, a small voice asking, am I still needed here? This is not the kind of situation people talk about openly, because nothing is officially wrong. And that's what makes it dangerous, because sometimes replacement doesn't happen suddenly. It happens quietly, step by step, almost invisible, until it's too late. In this story, we're going to explore 5 signs that might mean you are being quietly replaced at work. Not to scare you, but to help you see clearly. Because once you notice these signs early, you still have time to act. The first sign is something very subtle. So subtle. Most people completely miss it. It doesn't come as bad news. It doesn't feel like a problem. In fact, it can even feel like relief. Less work, fewer responsibilities. At first, it feels like a good thing. You are less stressed, less pressure. Your days feel lighter. But slowly, something starts to shift. Important tasks are no longer given to you. Projects you used to handle are assigned to someone else. And when you ask about it, the answer is always simple. We just want to try something different. Or, we're redistributing the workload. Nothing personal, nothing serious, but over time, a pattern begins to form. You are no longer at the center of important work. You are on the outside, watching it happen. Let me tell you about Min. He had been working at his company for almost 3 years, reliable, consistent, quietly doing his job well. At one point, he was trusted with key tasks, deadlines, decisions, responsibility. Then one day, things started to change, not dramatically, just small adjustments. One project was given to someone else, then another. At first, he felt relieved. Less pressure, more time to breathe. But after a few weeks, he noticed something uncomfortable. He was no longer involved in important discussions. People stopped asking for his opinion, and slowly, his role began to shrink. No one said anything directly, no warnings, no feedback, just silence. And that silence was the first real sign. Because sometimes, being replaced doesn't start with criticism. It starts with being needed less. And if you don't notice it early, you may only understand what happened when the decision has already been made. The second sign is even harder to notice because it doesn't feel negative at all. In fact, it can feel like someone is helping you, training someone new. At some point, your manager or team asks you to guide a new person. Just show them how things work. Help them get started. It sounds normal, even positive. It means you are experienced, trusted, capable of teaching others. So you agree. You explain your daily tasks, your process, your small tips and shortcuts, things you learn through time and effort. At first, it feels good. You're sharing knowledge, supporting the team. But slowly, something begins to feel different. The new person is not just learning the basics, they are learning everything. Your responsibilities, your workflow, your systems, even the small details that only you used to handle. And at some point, they stop asking questions. They already know what to do. And that's when a quiet thought appears. Why do they need to know all of this? Let me tell you about Lon. She had been working in her position for over 2 years. She knew the system well, handled tasks smoothly, rarely made mistakes. One day, a new employee joined the team. Her manager asked her to train him. Lon didn't think much about it. She spent days explaining everything, step by step, the tools, the process, even the small problems that usually appear. The new employee learned quickly, faster than she expected. After a few weeks, he could handle most of the tasks on his own. And something changed. Lan started receiving less work, not suddenly, but gradually. Tasks were shared, then slowly shifted, until one day she realized something uncomfortable. He could now do almost everything she did, and she was no longer essential. No one said anything directly, but the situation was becoming clear. Because sometimes training someone new is not just about helping them grow, it can also be about making you replaceable. This doesn't always mean something bad will happen immediately, but it does mean one thing. You are no longer the only one who can do your job. And in today's workplace, that can change your position faster than you expect. The third sign is something many people experience but rarely question. The third sign is not about what you lose, it's about what you stop receiving. Feedback. At the beginning of a job, feedback is everywhere. Your manager gives suggestions, your team corrects small mistakes, people guide you. It can feel uncomfortable sometimes, but it also means something important. You are being developed. You matter enough for people to invest their time in you. But over time, in some situations, that feedback starts to disappear. At first, it feels like progress. No one is correcting me anymore. I must be doing well. And maybe, for a while, that's true. But then something subtle changes. You stop receiving not only criticism, but also guidance. No one suggests improvements. No one challenges your ideas. No one really pays attention. Your work is accepted, but not discussed. Your presence is noticed, but not valued. And that silence can be misleading because it doesn't feel negative. It feels neutral. But in many cases, neutral is not a good sign. Let me tell you about Tuan. He used to have regular meetings with his manager. They would review his work, discuss improvements, talk about future plans. Sometimes the conversations were difficult, but they were always meaningful. Then, slowly, those meetings became shorter, less detailed, less frequent. Eventually, they stopped completely. At first, Tuan felt relieved, less pressure, more freedom, no one questioning his decisions. But after a while, something felt off. He wasn't learning anymore. He wasn't growing. He was just maintaining. And when he looked around, he noticed something else. His manager was spending more time with someone else, giving them feedback, guiding them, involving them in discussions, the same way he used to guide Tuan. That was the moment everything became clear. Feedback hadn't disappeared. It had simply moved to someone else. Because feedback is not just correction. It is attention. It is investment. And when people stop investing in you, it often means they are investing in someone else. The fourth sign is something you can feel even before you fully understand it. The fourth sign is something you don't hear clearly, but you feel it. Decisions start happening without you. At first, it's small, a meeting you weren't invited to, a discussion you hear about later. Someone says, "We already talked about this yesterday." And you pause because no one told you. You assume it's not important, or maybe just a mistake. But then it happens again and again. Important conversations continue without your presence, not because you are busy, not because you are unavailable, but because you were not included. And that changes something subtle. You are no longer part of the decision-making process. You are only receiving the result. Let me tell you about Hui. He used to be involved in almost every team discussion, planning, problem solving, making decisions together. And even when things were uncertain, his opinion was always considered. Then, one month, things started to shift. Meetings became fewer for him. Updates came later, sometimes after decisions were already made. At first, he thought it was temporary, maybe just a busy period. But then he noticed a pattern. The same group of people kept appearing in those conversations, and he was not one of them. He still had his role, still completed his tasks, but something important was missing: his voice. Because when you are included in decisions, you help shape the direction. But when you are excluded, you simply follow it. And over time, that difference becomes significant because value at work is not only about doing tasks well, it is also about influence. And when your influence disappears, your position becomes weaker. That quietly, without any announcement, without any warning, just a slow shift from being inside the circle to standing outside of it. And by the time you fully realize it, things may have already gone too far. The fifth sign is the most obvious one, but also the one people notice the latest. The fifth sign is the moment everything becomes clear, not through words, but through action. You are no longer growing in your role. No new opportunities, no new challenges, no conversations about your future. At first, it's easy to ignore. You tell yourself, I'm just in a stable phase. Things will change soon, but weeks pass, then months, and nothing changes. You are doing the same tasks, following the same routine, while others around you are moving forward. Let me tell you about Anne. He had been working in the same position for a long time. At one point, he believed he would grow within the company, take on bigger responsibilities, move to a higher role, but slowly. Those expectations faded. No one talked to him about promotion. No one asked about his goals. No one seemed interested in his future anymore. At the same time, he noticed something else. New opportunities were given to others. Projects, responsibilities, chances to prove themselves, things he once hoped for, now given to someone else. And that's when he understood something important. He was not being prepared for growth. He was being maintained until he was no longer needed. Because sometimes replacement doesn't look like rejection. It looks like being left behind, slowly, quietly, without confrontation. So, what can you do if you recognize these signs? First, don't panic. Seeing the truth early is your advantage. Second, start asking questions, not to accuse, but to understand. Where are you going in this company? Are you still part of the future plan? And most importantly, don't wait until everything is decided, because by then, it may be too late. Sometimes the strongest move is not to stay in hope, but to prepare, to learn, to explore new opportunities, and to take control before someone else decides your path for you. If this story made you think or helped you see something more clearly, take a quiet moment to reflect on your own situation. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need to hear this today.